To remain updated with the latest business news, click on the bell icon.
Ameya, what's it looking like? It's a huge task ahead of them. How do you see them working towards bringing Air India back on track?
It's one of the biggest questions which are being asked today, and it's going to be a very challenging task. Let's be honest. They have two airlines in which they have majority stake for the last 6 to 7 years, which have not been profitable. You had a chance to start as a clean slate and you couldn't make it profitable. So to take over this mountain of debt, the challenges which come with it, and then try and turn around is much more difficult. And it's going to be challenging. It's going to be a long road. But personally, I feel eventually they will reach there, and there are reasons to it. With this acquisition, they are in a position where they are controlling 1/4 of the market than the minuscule market which they were controlling before. And as and when over the next 2 to 3 years, they get to a point where they can merge this and form a larger airline, that's when they would be in a commanding position to make that change happen towards profitability.
Sure. Ameya, is that what you see happening going forward? Do you see them, like you said, consolidating operations across the airlines? Because, clearly they have an edge when it comes to the international market with what they're already doing with Vistara as well.
For me, I think the way the strategy would pan out is have two distinct groups, one which looks after the full service space and one which looks after the low cost carrier space. I think they're in better position to merge Air Asia India first, because in next couple of weeks they are likely to have 100% share there. Which makes it easier for merger versus comparing it to Vistara, where they have, say, 51%, 49% still with Singapore Airlines. So you need to have that partner on board on how you are going to have that. Does Singapore Airlines vacate the space, or do they get some shareholding in the new Air India entity? We don't know what kind of talks are going on between the two partners. But to begin with, from 3 or 4 airlines, get it down to 3, then get it down to 2, and use that to ensure that you have a very strong international footing. Because if you look at it, Air India has been on the top of international routes when it comes to ASKs. So though departures Indigo was more, Air India has been always on the top in terms of the ASK, or the available seat kilometers. With this and Vistara having wide bodies with few more expected, as a group, they will become really big on the international market, which is where the money is coming from. Domestic is all driven by lower cost, whereas international, you still have a lot of scope to play around with the seasonality, with the fares going up in those times, and making the most of it. And when it comes to merging this all together, it's a slow process. However, they have to get there. Running 4 different brands, I think Tatas have burned their hands running the Taj group of hotels with multiple brands and sub brands, and then combining it together. So that will be one example which will be very handy for them to ensure that how do they keep themselves in a nimble, small way to ensure they go to market as a one big entity.
Ameya, what does Air India need to do, or what do the Tatas need to do with Air India to ensure that they, really turn it around and at a fast pace, in terms of changes? For example, we've already heard of, better meal service, for instance, directions to the staff, to the cabin crew. What are some of the bigger changes that you can already anticipate they'll have to make to the airline?
I think the bigger changes would be on the aircraft hardware part. The government has been holding back their spending on repairing the aircraft. So typical things which you've seen in the past with Air India on broken seats or broken armrest and so on, I think that will be the immediate fixes. The money will be pumped in towards getting aircraft up and running into the air. So these are all a mix of hard and soft product, with a huge Taj group of hotels behind them, trying to change the service offerings which are there, upgrading how the greetings go out and how the service spans out. From there to minor fixes on the hardware side is what I see happening immediately. The least that will happen is actually tinkering with the routes and seeing new stations or closing old stations. I think that requires a lot of data analysis, and getting into that comes in later.
Giving us a sense of the scale of the task at hand here. Ameya, with a quarter, when 25% plus of market share, how much pricing power are we going to see the Tatas have now when it comes to the aviation market?
Question. Currently, if you see 15 days, you are capped by the government. You cannot change prices in D plus 15 days. But beyond that, I think there will be a lot of effort done to have sale in place to ensure that you start seeing revenue, forward revenue. And after that, slowly try and differentiate and inch over and above their regular offerings and make it as close as possible to Vistara. And then have the clear distinction that you have two full service carriers in the country, and this is where the pricing is versus all the low cost carriers. But for that to happen, they need to slowly start showing the difference in terms of service and the hard product, because it's about asking people to pay that some amount more to ensure that you are getting a better experience than what you would with somebody else. And I think the best way to any Indian is by means of food, and that's where they are starting from. So food is something which is attractive to all of us, and it seems they've picked up the right thing to start with.
Ameya, thanks so much for joining us for a detailed look at really, what perhaps is in store for Air India as its new owners take over officially.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.